So in this video, I'd love to give you a quick overview of how you can use Kullu Tamam. In my opinion, absolutely the best, actually the only really good textbook to teach you Egyptian colloquial Arabic, especially when you want to understand the grammar and the pronunciation phonetic rules. So this is the number one. I have a number of other books, so that's why I use always in my Egyptian Arabic videos Kullu Tamam as the ultimate source for information, as for grammar, and this is more like a reference book than just a regular textbook. So the reason I making this video that recently I watched an excellent
أتعلم عربي or
Kholoud Abdelal. I'm following her, and then she recorded a video with actually a number of quite useful sentences, most of them about how to learn, what to say when you want to learn Arabic. For example, here is أنا هبتدي أتعلم عربي. So that is I am going to start learning Arabic, and these topics, and she collected, actually she used in his video 11 verbs form, and 5 of them of stem form 1, and then stem 2, form 2, verbs 2, and stem 3, and stem 5 verbs, and stem 8 verbs. So the topic says that sentence every beginner must know, but if you really want to understand what's happening behind the scene, why these words has the shape, for example this haptidi, what is this verb, then I just want to show you the number of sections and how much work you are expected to learn before being able to fully understand what's happening here. So I just wanted to say that this is a beginner. Yeah, sure, if you are a beginner you have to learn this, but to really master the forms, the verb forms in Arabic or Egyptian Arabic, it's really challenging and a lot of work. So please watch again Kholoud's excellent videos. However, these videos or none of the YouTube videos can replace a really good textbook and a grammar book, a reference book, which really gives you an explanation what's happening behind the scene. So for example, let's start that I'm just showing you the relevance sections for this specific video. So first thing, you should understand the active participle form, and then the grammar 6 in Kullu Tamam, these chapters are from Kullu Tamam, starts explaining the active participles in detail. Yep, so this is a quite easy topic, so that's why it is quite short, and it's very decent and absolutely an excellent explanation with examples what is used here. The second section, the next topic is the imperfect. Lesson 7 starts explaining how to form the imperfect verbs. What are the prefixes? What are the suffixes? Yet, fortunately, this is not too complex, but you should understand it. And then, based on this, it gives you an introduction to the imperative forms, and also an explanation, the Yahud and Yakul examples, which are in a sense exceptions, that is irregular forms of these verbs. And then comes the next section is about the perfect tense. This is lesson 9. So actually this book has 17 lessons, so this is somewhere in the middle. Definitely, if you go as far as lesson 9, I would, and if you really understand all of the preceding lessons, that is, you learn everything meticulously, lesson 9, I wouldn't call it as a beginner lesson, but definitely this is where the perfect, the past time, is explained in detail. This is quite a lengthy section because it starts explaining the root system, yes, the stems or forms, the stem 1, stem 2, 3, but this is just an overview, and then it starts explaining the conjugation itself, how to apply weak verbs, endings of the perfects for stem 1, and all of these are explained brilliantly with enough something. And what is good with Kullu Tamam, that the authors, this book is used for a number of universities, so this is scientifically and grammatically perfect and correct. So this is not just written by the random people on YouTube, but this is really, these guys know what they are doing. They are scientists. They know, they are trained, and that's their profession, to teach you the grammar and to understand the grammar and meaning of the perfect. Again, very important section, how to use the perfect. Yeah, and so that was the perfect, that was for lesson 9, and that jumps over to lesson 10, which explains you the ha-imperfect, which is actually the future time. Fortunately, when you know the imperfect tenses, ha-imperfect is quite easy to master, and then the bi-imperfect is also included in lesson 10. Yes, just review again, bi-imperfect with a number of examples. Forming is provided here. So this was lesson 10, and then one more section I want to mention to you, and yes, and this is lesson 11, which explains you the verb stems 2 and 3 and others in detail. In the previous section, in the past tense, in a perfect tense, in lesson 9, it was just an introduction, but this section gives a detailed explanation of these stems, especially their usage. And then verb stem 3, the reason I mentioned that this is very important, because in Kholoud's example video, actually half of the verbs, 6 verbs, are not form 1, they are stem 2, stem 3, stem 5, and stem 8. So that's why the understanding the system, and this is a very unique in Arabic and of course in Hebrew too and other Semitic languages. So this is a must to understand correctly. Stem 8, for example, ibtada is also belongs to this part, and also gives explanation, again detailed explanation for the imperfect for these stems, and also a section, but this section is lesson 13, a special section, some of the irregular verbs, including gi, ga, yigi, and iddu, iddi. Yes, and then of course it goes over to the other stems, 7, 10, and 4. But in his Kholoud's example, these are quite rare verb forms, so they are not used. So again, so the reason again, just to mention to you that this is a massive volume, massive amount of knowledge, information. If you want to understand correctly what are explained here, don't expect that it is an overnight it many number of weeks, even months, to understand the background of all these so-called beginner sentences. If you are just a parrot, that is, you just want to repeat without understanding the structure, the how, why these are explained and said by a native speaker like Kholoud, then of course you don't need these many months, many weeks of hard work. You just try to repeat. However, that's I don't know if it leads to anywhere, because this system is too complex, in my opinion, just to learn without copying, without understanding the basics. But that's going to lead to another discussion, and I watched a very brilliant video from a trainer that if someone wants to ask you that, hey, when you are just a small child and now then without grammar they can learn speak. Yes, but keep in mind that for those childs they are mostly 16 hours per day for a number of years. They are not doing anything, just learn and copying. You don't have, as adults, we don't have that much of time, so that's why we need to have a structure in our understanding of Arabic. And that's where brilliant textbooks like Kullu Tamam is indispensable. If you have a book like that, and then everything, you have an aha moment. Now you understand why things are happening as explained by the native speaker here. I hope that was a bit of a help for any learners of Arabic, and I'm very happy that I eventually was able to find Kullu Tamam. There are a number of other books. Most of them are trash. That's the only gem, and that's the only source what I would highly recommend.